You made notes?
Yeah, I Googled him.
Wow.
Good luck with that.
Well, you should feel really honored because David makes notes for nobody.
I don't know how Google worthy I am or what would even come up. This will be interesting.
Oh, it's I can't even read my handwriting.
Well, welcome to my world.
Yeah.
I'm going to drop this.
Yep, just do whatever you got to do, man. Make it comfy. We're not fancy like the Zone. We don't have the boom arms and all that yet. We're still very budget.
I think our studio, the studio that we're in now, is the most unbelievably nice studio you've ever seen, and it was not made for us. I think it was made for Big D and Bubba, and then I think they were like, "We're not going. No way!" And so did
y'all move? Or are you still over there by
we're in the same
lumber?
building. We're 10 Music Circle East. I could have walked here.
Yeah.
But our studio was made for an ensemble radio show, or enough to have an ensemble show with a cast of thousands and a band. So it is amazing in there.
Okay.
Yeah. And then it didn't get used for that.
I don't know what ensemble means.
Lots of people. Ensemble people. Lots of people. You know what it means.
I thought you were smart.
You're a
big words.
wordsmith.
Huh?
Words are your business.
I'm too. You mean hit record?
It's recording.
Oh, it is?
Yeah. Oh. I can edit out all the stuff about the Titans suck. It's okay.
So you were recording that. Yeah. Welcome to Twangtown, guys. We're back for our...
This will be episode number 4.
Is it 4? It's cuatro.
Cuatro.
To our in Espanol listeners.
Yeah.
Joining
us today, we have Mickey Ryan, co-host of the Blaine and Mickey Show, 104.5 The Zone here in Nashville, Tennessee.
You just did a segment intro for us. Yeah. I'll use that.
He's a striking young man.
He's an old man and not striking, but that's very kind of you. This isn't being taped. Like, our stuff is all on now. You can't just be ugly on the radio anymore. It all gets broadcast. So I don't see any cameras, so we're good.
Oh, buddy.
I have a face for this kind of broadcast, so that's good.
No,
I tuned in for funsies earlier because, like, typically I'm here and I don't listen to the radio, but I was like, I'm going to check out Blaine and Mickey and see what's going on. And y'all definitely have cameras in your face now. I was like, oh, that's
You're
fun.
not really selling me. I never listened to your show. I only listened today because you were coming down here.
Well, how long have you been doing the midday show now?
2 years, I guess.
Because you used to be, first, if I remember right, you started on the morning show.
No, I was only on the afternoon. Yeah.
And then you went morning?
No.
So you were always...
Okay. Blaine was in the morning.
He literally said he was only on the mornings.
Blaine and I were together in the afternoon with Brent Doherty. Then he went to the mornings.
Yeah.
And then they re-scrambled some things. We got a new program director who's, you guys know what that is. You're in this world. But we got a new program director, and he shook all these things up, and then he took Blaine and me and put us together.
Gotcha.
So we had been on the pre- and post-game show together. So we always were. They kind of see us as like an old married couple. So it's like, just let Blaine and Mickey do it.
Right.
So we do the pregame show still together, and then we do our show together. So
yeah. So like many years driving home, I would listen to what was, I guess it's still the 3HL.
Yeah.
And so like, obviously, I guess that was a 7-year run that you were on the afternoon show. And so, yeah. And I've just always became a fan of yours and always like, man, Mickey sounds like a guy I'd like to hang out with. And we started this podcast, and I was like, hey, here's a shot in the dark. Let's just see if Mickey wants to hop on the pod.
You just had cold. Did he cold call you?
He cold called me.
He cold called you.
I slid into his DMs on Instagram for sure.
He cold insted me. Yes. He cold insted me.
The what do they call you yesterday? The tall brewski?
Yeah.
We played I do a charity golf tournament every year, and this year was Make-A-Wish Foundation, but we play golf, and there's a bunch of ignorance during the golf, and then we do a charity concert afterwards. Last night it was my group, Halfway to Hazard, Chris Young, and a new guy named Pryor Baird. But these ladies on one hole were very, very merry, very, very spirited. And Colt told him his name, Colt Mertzke, and they thought he said Tall Brewski.
I think a legend was born.
Yeah, I think it's a great nickname. I think you should hold on to it.
Yeah. Let's just start celebrating it once a year.
Yes. Well, thanks for coming in, man. I'd researched you a little bit before. I've listened to you on the radio before. I love your show. I love you and Blaine. Is he still?
This is way better than Colt. I only listened today because
exactly
you were coming in.
I know you've only been on the afternoons.
Thank you for knowing that Google search was very good to you.
I know that you invented my favorite least favorite, or you launched my favorite least favorite drug of all time. Ambien.
Yeah, I did. You did.
Wow.
Yeah. Zolpidem tartrate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let
I
me
remember
tell
all
you,
that stuff.
I don't know if you've ever experienced Ambien in our listener world out there, but for about 10 minutes, it's the best thing in the world. And then you buy groceries.
Yeah.
There's been people that come home or wake up the next morning, they'll have groceries on their counter. I don't know if you're still affiliated with them.
No, I'm not. You can say
good,
anything.
good.
Yeah.
It's, tell you what, man, I've had some good experiences on it.
When that got launched, this was well over 20 years ago. I was in the meeting with like the 3,000 reps, where they have like a band come in and play and they spend all this money and the drug gets launched. And so they launch it and they're talking about GABA receptors and how it binds. So this is your sports talk science minute of the day.
Give it to me.
So they were talking about how this is different from Halcyon and it's different from all these other lorazepam and diazepam. This is 25 years ago. I still remember every drug category. It's different from all that. It binds with the GABA receptors, and it's not something that you'll become addicted to.
Uh-huh.
And it's the way the science of it works. The other stuff is really addictive. It gives you a high. They said Ambien doesn't make you high. It only makes you sleep.
Uh-huh.
And this is kind of how it was taught to us. You go to all this training. And so at the end, they said, we're going to pass a microphone around if you guys have any questions. And I raised my hand, and I'll never forget looking at my boss, and he had this look of terror in his eyes. And I said, it's fine. So sure enough, they get around Betty from Cleveland and Steve from Los Angeles. And here's you, sir. I'm Mickey from Arkansas. I've got a question for you because I was still in Jonesboro, Arkansas. I said, so you say this is non-addictive? And the guy was like, yes, sir. That's the science of it. That's what sets Ambien apart. And I was like, people can get addicted to food.
Yeah.
How could they not get addicted to this? People are addicted to Diet Coke. Right?
Yeah.
How in the world can they think like they took the microphone away from me? And
A lot of feedback.
It is 100% addicted.
you can get addicted to anything.
Yeah, for a while I couldn't go to sleep without it, and I would not sleep well, after a while on it. But if it, every once in a while, it's pleasure.
You reminded me of a story that someone told me. They said their dad just got up in the middle of the night and they heard this clinking around in the garage, and they went out and their dad was naked but wearing like his tidy whities. Right, he's on his motorcycle wearing his tidy whities, opening the garage door, putting on his motorcycle helmet. I'm like, Dad, what are you doing? Like, I got to get something at the grocery store.
Yeah, exactly.
And like, no, you're naked.
Ambien likes to party, for sure. No,
So that could have been really bad.
I knew you did that, and that's. I mean, it was hilarious to me that you were instrumental in.
I've had many work lives. There's very few things I haven't done.
What else have you done? What
Many
did you do
work lives.
before you were a farmer?
I was a farmer as a kid.
Yeah.
I can start a 40-20 John Deere with a screwdriver if it's long enough, to arc anyway. I can do that. I can drive anything. I have a motorcycle. I can drive any piece of equipment just because I grew up and my dad was like, go start the combine and drive it to the other end of the county. Like, wait a second. That header is like 18 feet wide and my lane of the road is 12. He said, you'll figure it out. So I never took out one mailbox. My dad hit everything. Oh. So God rest his soul, but I got him. I never hit anything with a combine or a disc or anything else as a 12-year-old driving it.
That's impressive.
So I farmed. I worked at a grocery store. I worked at Sears. I was the maintenance guy for a bank. This was all during college. I worked in the vacuum department, and I wanted them to make me business cards that said, I'll sell you a vacuum that really sucks. And they were like, that's against policy. I was like, but don't you want to sell sucky vacuums? I mean, we're here to sell things that suck. That's right. Sucking is our world. Why can't we work suck into what we do?
Suck it up.
And so they refused to do it. So I took my business savvy and went down to Dillard's. So I worked at Dillard's, and then I graduated. I worked for my fraternity for a year. I was a traveling consultant at Arkansas State. Yeah. Thank you for reading Google. And so my beloved alma mater. And so then I worked for my fraternity for a year. Then I came back and I was trying to work in TV because that was my degree. And so then I went back to work for Dillard's. And so I worked for them for a while, and I was working in Memphis. And Dillard's has a phone, like the bat phone, that from any Dillard's, you can call any other Dillard's. Did you guys know that about Dillard's?
No idea.
You could go into a Dillard's, and if you want anything from another Dillard's, you could be like, let's call Kalamazoo, Michigan. And they're like, that's code 765. You can just call them. Now it won't call anybody else. It'll freaking call Dillard's like the bat phone.
That's amazing.
So I got so lonely in Memphis. I could call any Dillard's. Well, all my friends still work at Dillard's in Jonesboro. I would call them for like half my shift every day. They would pass the phone around.
Now, this is back in the day when you couldn't call just for free on your cell phone.
No.
When long distance was a thing.
I didn't make enough money to make phone calls. So they would just pass the phone around. So I would call, and I would be like, could you get the makeup ladies and put them on with me? So they put the makeup ladies, and I'd be like, what's Barbara doing in shoes? And they'd be like, Barbara, come talk to Mickey.
He's lonely again.
So they get everybody, and like the assistant manager kind of caught on in my Dillards and the Jonesboro Dillards. So they were talking about like, we just got to shut the tie line down. He's abusing it.
Yeah.
So
the tie line?
It's called the tie line. It ties the Dillards.
I was thinking like neckties.
No, but I guess I could have called neckties on the tie line. So anyway, the tie
Bob
line,
and neckties.
Apparently somebody was paying for that, and the bill came due.
Oh, no, it wasn't free?
Apparently not.
Whoa.
So some friends of mine came with a flatbed trailer and threw all my stuff on it and moved me back to Arkansas in one afternoon. And my dresser blew out right as we crossed the bridge from Memphis into Arkansas. And I said, leave it. It was just pasteboard. I'd put it together. I saw it go like down the interstate and just disintegrate.
You can't stop there.
Nope. I say, keep on going. So we just left that sucker in West Memphis. So we just kept on trucking back to Jonesboro. So I worked at Dillard's, and I got into suits, which was big time. So then I'm selling suits. So all the pharmaceutical reps would come in and buy suits. Mm-hmm. So one of them was like, can I ask you something? I said, yeah, sure. Yes, sir, of course. And he said, is this what you want to do forever? And I was like, I don't know. I mean, I wanted to work in TV, but I haven't gotten a TV job. He's like, what? You're a salesman. You want to sell pharmaceuticals? And I was like, you mean like drugs? And he's like, yeah. I said, well, I don't know how. And he goes, well, they train you, you ding dong. And so I got a job selling pharmaceuticals out of Dillard's.
Oh, wow.
And so I sold for Bristol Myers Squibb for a year, and I had a bunch of stuff that they don't use anymore. It's also old. But then my neighbor who lived behind me, I lived with 5 friends in a house, and God bless this poor lady, our yards backed up, and I'm sure she hated us. But our dads had worked together. They were both politicians from the area that I was from. And she said, hey, my dad's getting real sick, and I'm going to just leave my job, and I'm going to go take care of him and be with him until he's gone. She said, I've already called Cyril Ambien, who launched it. They don't exist anymore. And she said, I told them they should hire you. And I said, you did? And she goes, yep, I told them that. So call this number. So I called the number, and they were about to launch Ambien, which is a big deal. Yeah. So I wound up going to work for them and worked for them, and this is going to be the whole podcast, but anyway, I did that.
We've got time.
I did that. I kept feeling like I was missing out. I went to work in TV finally. I left pharmaceuticals and went to TV. I made like $36,000 and had a free car to making $12,000 and nothing in TV. But I had to do it because I'm one of these people. Like, I'm not going to be old and wish I'd done it.
Yeah.
And now I am old, and I'm thinking, you idiot. but
you
I
could
did
be running the Ambien shop right now.
Literally, I could be Mr. Ambien, the president of Ambien right now. But no, I had to ask the one question and leave the industry. So I wound up going into TV, and I worked for about a year for my hometown station in Jonesboro. Then I wound up moving to Bowling Green, Kentucky, and I was a sports anchor there, the weekend sports anchor, and I reconnected with this great friend of mine from college. If you've ever seen Cry-Like real estate signs, the Cry half of Cry-Like, they're Arkansas based. So Mr. Harold Cry is from Osceola, Arkansas, which is real close to where I'm from. And his son Chris and I, we went to college with each other at Arkansas State. We had a band. We were fraternity brothers. We did all this stuff together. And when the announcement got made that the Oilers were going to come here, I got sent down to cover a press conference. And so I thought, man, this is so weird. I think Chris Cry, he works in Brentwood. And so I asked him, like, where's Brentwood? They said, well, it's like 15 minutes south of here. So I didn't have to file this story for a day. I had just this weird delay. You normally have to file it immediately. So I had some time. So I drove to Brentwood, looked for a Cry-Like sign, drove up, walked in the door and said, does Chris Cry work here? And he walked around the corner. And so we reconnected and started to write songs again. We'd been in a band in college. And so I would come down, we just really reconnected and hit it off, started writing all these songs. I have been a musician for almost 40 years.
Got your first guitar when you were 13, 14 years old?
I sold a cow.
Sold a cow
to buy my first guitar.
We got to hear that too.
What'd you get?
Again, I don't know how much time we have
We've
here.
got plenty of time. But you sell a cow to get a guitar. I need to know about this.
Well, I didn't get magic beans.
No.
But I bought a there was a scratch and dent store in Jonesboro that sold just I have a scratch and dent Ampeg SVT3 that I've never found the scratch or the dent on.
Oh wow.
This place sold stuff that had been obliterated, like stuff that had fallen off trucks. And I go in there and I'm like, "Hey man, you got any basses or amps? I just started playing. So the guy's like, "Oh, I got a combo for you." So he sold me. One was a Colt and the other was a Kent. Mm-hmm. The amp was a Colt and the bass was one was one and one was the other. Which those brands, I guess, still exist. One was a Colt and one was a Kent. So the bass had like a scratch on the back of it, and it was a P-bass copy. And then the amp was just one whole side of it was about to come off. And he's like, "Little duct tape boy, this thing will last you a lifetime." And so, but my dad had said, "If you'll work hard for me this summer, I'll give you 2 cows." And so I said, "Okay, so I'll work like a dog. I'm driving this tractor everywhere." So at the end of the summer, I got 2 cows. And they had ear tags. I had 84 and 86. So I had like a wide receiver room of cows. So my dad said, "I'll tell you what, you can buy yourself you want some guitar, right?" And I was like, "I do. I need to get a bass because I started playing with my friend and we're going to start a band. He plays guitar. I'm going to play bass." And so he's like, "Okay." So he sells these cows. I took 1 cow and sold it. I bought this cheap. It turns out my dad probably held back some of the profit because this was really cheap musical gear and cows are worth a lot then. So I took the rest of my money and bought soybean seeds and planted a bean crop. So then I had beans that were up to my armpits. We had the worst drought we'd ever had. It was summer of whatever that was, 85, and all of them died.
Oh, no.
So we had almost no bean. We were like gentleman farmers. Mainly I was a gentleman farmer, and my dad was the mayor of the county. So he'd be like, "I'll see you at 6 o'clock today." This was at 5 o'clock in the morning. Anyway, my bean crop failed, but the bass never failed me. So we're crossing the streams now because it's like cows and guitars and TV. But I was still in TV. I wasn't using that bass or amp anymore. Reconnect with my friend. This was 1997. And so one night we were at the Boundary. You guys remember the Boundary?
I frequented the Boundary.
So he said, "Look, man, we're not getting any younger. If you're ever going to do this and we're going to try to play music, you need to do it." And I said, "No, you're right. You're right." He goes, my friend passed away later. That's a whole nother story. But he said, "Look, there's going to be people lined up to overwork and underpay you in TV for the rest of your life."
It's true.
So let's do this. And he was right. So I moved to Nashville originally in 97.
Okay.
And we played 3rd and Lindsley and 12th and Porter, and we played everywhere. And David Preston at BMI really liked us. And so we had all these pictures taken, and we recorded a better demo than the first demo we had recorded. And we recorded it with Joe Malden, who was the bass player for the Crickets. And then it was weird.
What was the name of the band?
That band was called Footlong Hog. Do you know what the Footlong Hog was?
Wow.
It could mean anything, but do you know what Footlong Hog was?
You don't want to know what I...
It was okay, fair enough. It was the giant hot dog on the midnight menu of the Boundary. The late night menu had the Footlong Hog. The other thing that they had on there were lobster flapjacks. Do you remember that?
I remember the lobster flapjacks.
That was our second name choice.
Oh my God.
So we just start writing songs. And we had this cheap Strat copy, and we had a little 4-track, and we just start recording all these demos. And Chris was not a great singer, but he was fantastic with the turn of a phrase. Mm-hmm. Just fantastic. And he had a way of saying things. And, when you connect with people as a songwriter, when you say things that people go, "Oh my gosh, that's an interesting way to say that."
Yeah.
Wow, what does that guy mean by that? And so he had a great way of doing that. And so we sort of recruited this band, and we didn't. A friend of ours introduced us to her brother-in-law, who was a hip-hop drummer. So I love metal. And Chris loved a lot of rap and urban music. And he loved everything, but he was very much... He just had a broad palette of music. But he loved rap and the way those guys phrased things. Mm-hmm. And so we had a heavy metal bass player. We had a hip-hop drummer. We had like an R&B rap singer. And then our guitar player was a guy, Dutch, who's still a great friend of mine that I still play music with today. And he was an Americana guy.
Oh.
Like Jayhawks and...
That's very eclectic.
So eclectic.
But here's the thing. It's like Stone Soup. When everybody throws their thing in, it's like, holy moly.
It worked?
It worked. Did it ever work? And so really felt like we were moving towards something like that. We played Springwater twice.
Oh, my Lord.
Which everybody did.
Yeah.
The second time we played there, we charged cover, which the guy said it's never happened here.
I'd never heard of that.
We charged cover.
I moved here the year after you did, in '98. So we shared a lot of the same ground.
Oh, we're not even started yet on all the. We probably stood in the same place at the same time several times. So we charged cover, and the guy was like, "You can't play here again. You charge cover." And of course, my friend was like, "We don't need to play here again." And so I went to work for Cry-Like. So I'm tying the stories together now. We're tying the stories together. We're looping it in.
I like it.
I gone to work for Cry-Like, and so I was a management trainee. So we would have our real estate clothes on. So here's what we did. I mean, you're looking at me today. I look like an insurance adjuster. There's nothing cool about me. And so Chris and I would leave, like the real estate. We'd have our tie on and everything. Chris, he was a little older than me and much bigger and more imposing. So we invented an entire stable. We invented our own management company with our own stationery that he had the Cry-Like creative team create. We had a full stable of artists, none of whom existed. Chris's name was Morty Blumberg. He would call people as Morty Blumberg to book Footlong Hog, our band. Oh my gosh,
amazing.
So we would make calls as Morty Blumberg. I was his nameless, faceless assistant who just traveled with him and didn't say anything. But we went to 12th and Porter and booked ourselves. When we went back to play, the guy's like, "Wait a second, you guys are the band?" And we're like, yeah.
That shows you this town. I mean, God bless it. It's one of my favorite places on earth. But perception is a big thing.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
If somebody thinks you are something, or, it counts. People will fall right in on it. And that's a great example of it.
So we go down there. We have our full stationery with our rider, and it was like, no brown M&Ms. We stole that from Van Halen. And they booked us and set up the room the way we wanted them to.
Amazing.
And we started to send this to other clubs to try to book. Well, I mean, here's this beautiful stationery, and we had prices for the other bands. And we way overpriced them and made Footlong Hog affordable. That's how we did it. Footlong Hog was our affordable band, so maybe you'll book them. So we had one band was called Vibrashank, which, you know what a Vibrashank is?
No.
A Vibrashank is a farm implement. So let's say that you go out in the springtime and you plant a rice crop or a soybean crop, and it's raining. And depending on the composition of your soil, sometimes it'll become really hard over the top of the seeds. So you run a Vibrashank over it, and it busts up the soil, then your seeds can grow out of the ground.
Oh.
So Chris was fascinated with my agricultural knowledge, so he's like, Vibrashank.
I am too.
So Vibrashank was one of our fake bands. They were a German techno metal band.
Yeah.
Wow. This is so creative. I love it.
German. We'll go back to that in a minute.
He had someone use the phrase squat hump to him. So we had squat hump. But it had two umlauts over the U. And they were like a DJ, squat hump. It was totally, it wasn't metal like Vibrashank, squat hump. But people were like, what's squat hump? We're like, it's hump. Squat hump. Do you not see the umlauts over the U?
The umlauts.
So squat hump, somebody tried to book squat hump one time. And we're like, it's squat hump. And they're not available. They're currently in Europe. So one of our real estate agent friends, her daughter's name was Rebecca Hill. We had Rebecca Hill on our label. And Rebecca's like a grown woman with 3 kids now. She was our country artist. And anytime somebody asked for Rebecca Hill, we'd be like, she is currently on tour in the great American Southwest playing her brand of country music. So we never booked any other bands because they didn't exist. But we'd say Footlong Hog is currently in the Mid-South, though, and we can get them for you.
There needs to be a movie made about this, seriously.
So
one of the greatest things I've ever heard.
And
you should see that. If I had the station,
this?
no. Somebody told me they have a piece of the stationery years ago, and I need to get my hands on it.
Just send it to us.
We made logos for the other bands that didn't exist.
This is very involved.
We made logos.
This is deep.
So Squat Hump, Vibrashank, Rebecca Hill. We had one more. This is a long time ago. But all this is going on. David Preston's telling us, I have a showcase schedule. We have all the stuff. He said, get some better pictures taken. So we go and get some better pictures taken. He said, get a better demo. We go and record a better demo. And just in the wildest turn of events, Chris died in an accident.
Oh
my
gosh.
best friend, my coworker, my fellow songwriter, my bandmate, my everything. He died. It was 25 years ago in August. He died.
Wow.
And so then then my life was sort of, for a little while, it was like a bad movie.
Yeah.
Like nobody at BMI would take my call anymore. And, and I'm walking lonely, like kicking a can down the street, and, a truck goes by and splashes water on me. It's like nothing seemed to go my way for a while. So, at that time, my parents were like, hey, man, you need to just come back to Arkansas.
Yeah.
You need to just come home. And I said, honestly, if I come home, I'm going to pack up everything that I have, including my problems. And when I open up my suitcase, there's my underwear, but there's also all my problems.
Yeah.
I said, I got to stay here, and I got to figure this out. I'm not going to run away. And so I wound up staying here for, that was a year. And I stayed here another 12 years.
Yeah.
Wound up meeting my wife. I've continued to work in real estate for Crye the whole time. And I kind of dabbled. I had an agent. I did like 50 commercials. So I was in an insurance commercial and I played a doctor in a Vanderbilt commercial and a patient in a St. Thomas Hospital commercial. And
yeah.
So I did all these commercials and stuff. I used to do freelance sports on Channel 4 and for Fox. And so I kind of kept my toe dipped in that water, but I really wanted to make it in music. And it just seemed like every time I got to the point where I almost had my claws like in the top of the hill, I would slide back down, every time.
Yeah. Were you waiting on the Scorpions to call?
I'm still waiting for the Scorpions to call. Look, here's the thing about that gig.
Yeah.
You could just pedal E so much.
You could really do it.
And when you're pedaling E, you don't even need your left hand.
No.
And so you can fire up the crowd.
You can rock.
And then you can put your foot up on the wedge monitor.
Yeah.
Because I don't use in-ears. I want the wedge monitor, which
We'll
I
feel
saw
it.
a band recently that only use wedge monitors.
I love it. I love feeling it.
Bryan Adams.
Yeah.
I was in awe of all the wedge monitors. And they just never call. But I have it all. Like, I'm playing Big City Nights in my head right now.
If you're wondering, he's a huge Scorpions fan.
Love it.
Thank you. Google is. This all can't be on Google. There's no way.
Oh, I'm
not that
really
interesting.
good.
None of this is
really
on
good
Google.
at
I've got you,
Google.
bro. I've got you.
You did a lot better work on Google than I did.
I know I did. I know I did. I know.
I would almost think you were listening to the show because all these stories come out on the show.
No, I know that I think what was your trick? You could if there was a music in your era, you could tell they could play you the song. You could tell who the band was, and get close to the year.
Oh, they do that to me on the show.
They do it
Yes,
to you on the show?
Sure. Oh gosh, yes, they do
Yeah.
that to me all the time.
Yeah, that's your little card trick, huh?
I don't have many tricks, but
Yeah.
that is a trick. That
I am
they
a
admire.
well of useless trivia knowledge as well.
Ooh.
It's ridiculous.
What's your area?
Just about anything. Really, just about anything. But if I tried to sit down and read something in college or in high school, I couldn't do it. But if it's something I don't want to remember, it's in there.
Oh, what kind of guitar amps did Winger use? Kitty Hawk. Like, yes.
Yeah. I don't have that.
Okay.
But I know the typewriter was invented the same time in softball in Chicago, Illinois, and softball was an indoor sport when it was invented. It's just stupid shit that I can't get rid of.
I'm the same guy. Although mine is, a lot of it is music based, which is useless to me because I'm not a wacky FM DJ.
Yeah.
I mean,
how underrated of a band was Winger? They were just stupid good.
Beavis and Butthead made such a punchline of them.
It destroyed them, yeah.
And there's a documentary out now where Kip gets interviewed, and it's on. We have every streaming service but that one. But I've watched enough of the previews, and of course you can go to YouTube and Google anything, and you can see big chunks of shows.
Yeah.
And essentially he said, like, a bunch of people have apologized to him. But the drummer for Winger is Rod Morgenstein, who asked drummers about Rod Morgenstein. And he's 70 years old. I saw them play the Ryman.
Kip lives. Does he still live here? He lives here.
I'm
Paul
sure that
Franklin lives here.
Paul lives
I
here.
see Paul at the gym quite a bit.
So Paul's wife works in radio advertising. So I've gotten to know Paul. I'm sure when Paul sees me at like
Super
a radio
nice
event,
guy.
he's like, oh God, not Mickey again.
But he's so nice.
It's the nicest guy ever.
Yeah.
So Paul Taylor, he wrote Miles Away, which was a big hit for Winger. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to, because I don't.
What year was it?
That was probably 89, I would guess. So he wrote Miles Away, and Paul's a great keyboard player, but also plays rhythm guitar. So he's in the band now. Winger is all the same people that it was. It's pretty amazing. Most of those bands aren't, like Poison is, Winger is. They replaced Paul, and when they decided, let's make one last run at this, because they recorded the new album, it's really good.
Yeah.
They told Paul, come back, and the other guy's going to stay too. So it's all of them.
That's amazing.
So they just make a wall of music. But like Red Beach is a freak of a guitar player.
They're stupid good.
They're really, really
Kip
good.
Winger, it was a beast. Singing, playing, whatever it was.
They were in Alice Cooper's band.
Yeah.
And you don't play for Alice unless you're A+++. Yeah. So, and he helped kind of launch them out of his own band. The original, when Winger came out, they launched out of Alice's band.
Yeah.
So we've detoured to Winger. How did we get here?
This is how we get here. This is how we detour.
Colt told me this is a long form podcast. So
there's no agenda. We're just here sharing amazing stories like Footlong Hog.
Try to think of something to tell them.
I know we grew up in sort of the same era. I was a big metalhead too. And then I graduated to grunge, and it was just. But Motley Crue was one of my favorite bands.
I've seen every Motley Crue tour that ever was.
Wow.
So fast forward to Waiting for Wishes.
Yep.
I did that for many, many years with Kevin Carter and Jada Marcus.
Sure.
And I would usually bartend. And one of the last times I did it, they said, you're going to be bartending with Vince tonight.
Yep.
I bartended with Vince Neil.
Oh, my gosh.
I was such a fanboy. Vince, what are you doing? You need anything, Vince? What's going on, buddy? But it was an amazing experience.
Is he not the nicest person?
Another just super nice guy. You would never know that this dude did all the things he did.
And if there was a list of all the things, he did all of them.
It was all the things.
Whatever the list is.
I've seen some of the things he's done on the internets.
Yes.
Yes.
They're available.
Yes, they are. And there's a book, I think, of things that he's done. But he was really super nice. He's one of the nicest guys ever.
I think Shout at the Devil is the greatest hair metal album of all time. Some people would say Def Leppard. Some people would say Out of the Cellar by Rat as a candidate. Some people might say Stay Hungry by Twisted Sister just because how they looked and had those cartoonish videos. Shout at the Devil, if you talk to people who are a little bit older than us, the thing they always say about Black Sabbath was, because Black Sabbath was coming out when they were old enough to buy those records, and people say, it scared the hell out of me, and I was so drawn to it. I had an older sister, and she was a big album rock fan. Now, she may have had Paranoid or something like that, but we just weren't a big Sabbath household.
Yeah.
When I saw the tape case to Shout at the Devil, it scared me to death.
Wow.
It literally terrified me. There were pentagrams and fire, and their clothes looked like the apocalypse, and I wanted to hear it so bad that I just couldn't wait to hear it. And when it started out, it's like, in the beginning, the dust of all men. And I was like, this is the greatest. And my mom and dad were like, what the hell are you listening to? It was. Are they saying Satan? And I was like, no, they're not shouting with the devil, they're shouting at him. Just like the preacher said, they're evangelists of being against Satan. And my dad was like, your mom may believe that, but I don't believe a word you're saying. That record, it changed my life. I mean, that and Pyromania by Def Leppard came out essentially at the same time. And I remember I have never had a drink of alcohol in my life. I've never done drugs. In my family, you're either a Methodist preacher or you cook meth. Like there's no... So everything is a gateway to everything in my family. Everything is a gateway to everything. So I just had the sense to be like...
I love the meth correlation.
I know that's a pina colada and it's harmless, but I'm afraid I'll be mainlining heroin by tomorrow if I drink it. So I just know the limitations genetically of my family.
Did you ever take Ambien?
And listen to Shout at the Devil?
Actually, they prescribed it to me so I could take it to see how it worked.
Yeah, did you?
I took 1 5-milligram Ambien and woke up with like a white beard and long fingernails. So I thought I shouldn't do this again. I took 1 5-milligram.
Circled back around to Ambien.
100%. The whole. I guess we'll just have to name this episode Ambien and other things.
So we played a show one time. I'll get through the Ambien with this. We played a show one time close to my hometown. And at this point, I really wasn't drinking a whole lot.
At this point,
define a whole lot.
There was always tomorrow.
There was a lot of times, Mickey.
Okay.
So I played the show and went back to the bus and got on the bus. I'm going to be a good boy. I'm going to put my sleeping shorts on, which were basically basketball shorts with nothing under them, no shirt. And this body is something to be held. I mean, I know you can't tell it through the clothes.
I'm sure
I got on
somebody's
right now.
held it at some times. Yes.
And then I got in my bunk and I took I had a couple drinks, and I
Which
took,
literally it says on the label like, don't
I had a couple drinks, took my Ambien, laid down in, and woke up the next morning. Tour manager looks at me and goes, "You okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine, man."
Yeah, slept great.
He goes, "Yeah, I slept great." He goes, "Oh, no, you didn't." I went back in the bar. And just like the bar was still going, still my sleeping shorts. There's pictures of me. You can't see me. My eyes are not there. They put me back in the bus 3 times. The last time I was crawling across the road back to the bar. It was very embarrassing.
Back to the bar?
Yeah, yeah. So Ambien for those times. Yeah. So.
Ambien is not for everyone. Ambien can cause night sweats, meat sweats.
Ambien is not addictive.
Ambien can cause you to cross a road to get back to a bar a third time in your sleep shorts.
Oh God! So you've had a lot of hats. You've worn a lot of hats. You held a lot of jobs.
Yes.
Assistant athletic director, Arkansas State.
Eventually, I left here. I went back to Arkansas State. I was working in radio there, and I'm sort of like this unofficial Arkansas State historian. So,
how did this happen though? Like, okay, you're in Brentwood for 12 years selling real estate, and all of a sudden now you're going back.
So
how'd that happen?
I try to have a smile on my face all the time. And if you know anything about me or ever listen, you know that's kind of the way I carry myself. I feel like I won all the life lotteries that you could win except that call for the Scorpions, which could still happen. I'm way younger than they are. And so my dad died and my sister died within about a year of each other.
Oh my gosh.
And I would talk to my mom and she was like, I don't know what to do about this, or I've got your dad had this rent house, or we've got, and finally I just went to, I have a daughter and a son and my wife. At that time, my son wasn't born, and I went to my daughter who was little and my wife, and I said, I feel like we need to go home. Yeah. I feel like I would never ask, and you don't want to know what's crazy? The last conversation I ever had with my dad, I said, Dad, do I need to come home? And he said, not right now, but you'll know when you do.
Oh,
that's the last thing he ever said to me.
Good Lord.
Oh my gosh.
Besides like goodbye and I love you.
Yeah.
He said, No, not now. But I promise you, you'll know when. And so those words just haunted me after he died shortly after that. And so my sister died before him, and I don't know if he ever recovered from that. I mean, how would you? As a parent, how would you recover from that? And so we just had to go. So, and I was playing music, and I had so much going on, but I felt like that's where I should be. And so I went back, and I was working for a little radio station that kept getting sold. It was that kind of deal. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so the third time it got sold, they came in and I said, listen, we can skip the formalities. I'm just going to shake your head and say congratulations, but peace out.
Yeah.
I'm too old to be bought and sold every 6 months.
Yeah.
And so I wound up getting hired by another, like a big radio station chain. They had 5. And I was always out at Arkansas State covering stuff. And like one day they were playing a game, and one of the coaches in the game, I was standing there with my notebook, looked over at me and said, we're blowing these guys out. Are we close to any records? And I was like, if you'll throw him one more pass. So it kind of became like this joke that I knew more than anybody out there.
Yeah.
And so the AD got hired, the director of athletics, and I'd gone to school with him there. He's a graduate of Arkansas State. He's Terry Mohajer. He's at Central Florida now. Mm-hmm. And just helped take them to the Big 12 and hired Gus Malzahn, and they got a lot of stuff going on. And one night we were there, we're the last 2 people there, and I'm, sitting there working on some story, and he said, you just want to work here? You're always here. You know more about this place than anybody, including me. Do you want to work here? I said, what would I do? And he said, I don't know, associate AD. And I was like, man, that would look great on a business card. I'd love to work here. That was it. So they posted the job and hired me. So I did that. I would have kept doing that forever.
Yeah.
Barring a call from the Scorpions.
Exactly.
But when we moved back, I had worked part-time at the Zone. And they started 3HL, and they started some stuff. And I'd been doing a show late at night with Brent Doherty, who's still on 3HL. We were on until midnight. And I was a real estate broker. By this time, I was a broker for Cry-Like. I managed an office, had like 70 agents. And then I would go and work until midnight on the radio station.
Wow.
And so Brad Willis, who still works for Titans Radio, when I left, he's like, look, if anything ever opens up, I promise you I'll call. So we moved back to Arkansas. Things are going well. My mom we get everything in order, all the business stuff straightened out. And my wife would sometimes talking about Nashville. She considers this her home. She's from Southern Illinois, but she's lived here more than half her life. And she said, gosh, I like it here and it's great here, but I really miss Nashville. And I said, well, I'll make you a deal. If 1045 The Zone ever calls and offers me a job, we won't even discuss it. I'll go get some boxes. And I swear, just a few months later, The Zone called me and was like, hey, So here's how that happened. I came back to finish an album with some guys, a band called Dumb Dog Run, like power pop, Cheap Trick meets Green Day. We had made an album, and it's on iTunes. Check it out today, wherever you download your music.
Available on streaming platforms.
All streaming platforms. So we tried to finish an album before I left, and we couldn't. So I said, I'm going to go back and finish this album. So I came back to finish the second half of DDR2, still dumb after all these years, the second Dumb Dog Run album. And I just stopped by the radio station because I was like 2 hours ahead of when I was supposed to be here. So I walk in, and the lady was at the front desk, said, well, Brent's on the air. Why don't you go upstairs? You can say hello to him.
Yeah.
So I walked in. It was Brent and Blaine. Clay Travis was on the show then, but he was gone that day. So they said, come in and sit down. And I had been on the air. I'd been gone at that time 4 years. So I sat down, and at the end of the segment, Brent's like, oh, Mickey Ryan's in the studio today. Some of y'all may remember him from our show Overtime. And the phones went,
wow,
which never happens. If I die tomorrow, no one will remember by Monday that I was on the zone. People just forget you. That's the way it is.
Well, it's the music world and
yes,
radio
and people
world.
forget you.
Yeah.
It's like Weird Al Yankovic. Once somebody asked him, where you been? He's like, I never left.
Right.
You know? So people forget you. And he's like, man, this is so crazy. He goes, can you do a segment? I did the whole show.
Really?
Wow.
So to this day, I don't know who did it, but Clay Travis eventually left, and he's, a big, bright star right now in the world. So they were trying to figure out what to do on 3HL. And somebody had recorded my show that I did. I don't know who it is. And took a CD of it and put it on the program director's desk. Brad Willis remembered me.
So we have no idea who this is.
I don't know.
Wow.
But they took it to like downstairs to the big.
Yeah.
The peasants are upstairs in our building, and the important people are downstairs. So they took the CD and dropped it on the market manager's desk and said, 3HL's already done. Here's a version of it. Here's a full show. So they called me the next day. And oddly enough, I was in Tennessee with our football team going to play the Vols when they called me.
Wow.
And it's like, hey, Mickey, this is, so-and-so and so-and-so from Cumulus Broadcasting. We'd like to talk to you. Can you talk? And I said, I cannot. I cannot talk right now. I am on a bus with many of my great friends and coworkers. And they said, well, call us tonight. Well, our bus broke down in Brownsville, Tennessee.
Oh, my
I didn't
God.
get to Knoxville until 1:15 in the morning. So I'm sure they thought, this guy's just blowing us off.
Yeah.
So eventually I wound up talking to them, and they said, look, we want to offer you position on 3HL. And so I loved what I did so much. And I called my wife at 1:15 in the morning, and I said, I just got offered a job on 3HL.
Well, you've already made the agreement that you're going to go.
Yeah.
And so she said, I'm going to get some boxes when I wake up.
Yeah.
So that was it. It was the agreement was made, and I knew she wanted to be back, and my daughter was little and had already shown some signs, like musical signs, like, boy, this is really interesting.
She sings. I saw her doing the Paramore thing.
Yeah. So
It's great.
she could sing before she could talk, and that's a true story.
Wow.
And so I made the promise, so we did it. So we came back. So at 45, I got a full-time job on the Zone, which is the age normally where they're like, here's the back door open, we're going to... And at 47, I got added to Titans Radio. So I had gotten completely out of radio. I wasn't doing it anymore. So somebody asked me, like, how would you equate this to real life? I said, okay, I used to be on there late at night. I was on at midnight. It was a part-time job. I said, this would be like if you were a AAA pitcher and you got to AAA and just something happened with your elbow and you're like, you just shook hands and agreed it's not going to work out with your organization. So then years later, you were in the park playing pitch with your son, and somebody was like, I'm a Major League Baseball scout, and I couldn't help but notice. Wow. And then you're just back in the game.
Wow.
I mean, I never thought I would work in radio again.
Yeah.
And a couple of years later, I was doing the Titans pregame. So
That's amazing.
it's every time, what does they say? Man makes play and God laughs.
Yes.
Oh, he's laughed so much at my plans over the years.
Oh, yeah.
But you just seem like you're such a I mean, for lack of a better word, likable person.
Well, it's all an act. I'm a terrible person.
Right, same.
Yeah.
Which I act like I'm a terrible person too, but no, man, I can understand why people just want to be around you. You're very magnetic. You're very kind. You're very funny. It's just people are drawn to you, and they're drawn to your voice, and I'm sure they're drawn. That's what brought you back to everything you're doing right now. They just want to be around you.
Well,
we just want to be around you.
Well,
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Somebody asked me to describe myself once. I was like, I'm the Toyota Camry of people. I'm not flashy. I don't have nice wheels. I'm a sensible color. I have a 4-cylinder engine. But every day you come out and get inside me in your garage and you drive me somewhere.
That went to a weird place.
And I take you where you're going. And the radio works. And I'm very utilitarian and functional. But I never let you down.
Yeah.
But anytime you're like, let's go car shopping. You take me to a lot and try to trade me in for something shinier or better or faster or something else. But I go unnoticed, right? Until I break down. So if I break down one day, that's it for me.
Yeah.
But I know my place in the world. I'm the Toyota Camry. I'm just dependable. Like Blaine, he was a professional athlete for 10 years. Blaine's like a Maserati.
Yeah.
I mean, the zone Blaine and Mickey garage is a Camry and a Maserati. He's a high-powered sports car. You know, he's cool. Blaine's cool. You know, he looks cool. He is cool. There's nothing cool about it.
But you want to drive the Camry every day.
Well, the Camry will get you where you're going.
Yeah.
You know, the tires aren't thin. Like if you get a pothole in a Maserati, 100% you're blowing out the tires.
You're out.
The Camry has a nice, dependable radial.
Do you think Blaine could play right now?
I think if you got him fired up, he could play.
Yeah.
He always says, "Oh no, maybe one play."
Yeah.
He's so smart. He would immediately recognize what the other team was doing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny. Here we are again. We're just veering.
Yeah.
But I can ask him. We were actually sitting in the press box together Sunday, and we were watching the game. And there was one particular play where the Titans just hit Joe Burrow right in the mouth again. And Blaine kind of laughed, and I said, "No outside contain, right?" And he goes, "They don't even. There's no worry that he will spill one way or the other out of the pocket. If you watch them play Anthony Richardson this week." If Anthony Richardson doesn't like what he sees, he's immediately going to go to the right or to the left, and then it's going to take somebody fast to catch him.
Yeah.
They knew Burrow couldn't do that.
No.
They completely left the outsides of the field open. You'll never see that. Never.
Yeah.
And after the game, Arden Key said, we assaulted the middle of the pocket. They assaulted it, which we had Dave McGinnis on today, Coach Mack, and he's like, oh, that's amazing. A great word. They did assault the pocket. But they weren't worried.
I love him so much, too.
They knew he couldn't. Maybe it was fellow Texan. Yeah. Fellow Texan. So they knew that he couldn't move. Well, they're going to have to seal up the whole thing on Sunday against Anthony Richardson.
Oh, yeah, for sure, man.
But Blaine and me were just talking about that, and he's just rattling things off. And the great thing about him is he never uses too great a football jargon. He says it in ways that people understand.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
He's so great at that.
And he's very smart. I mean, he's very analytical, and like you said, he's a very relatable commentator, and just the way he sees the game. And I think he's even said that he's like, you know, I'm not the biggest line, or did he play safety?
Safety.
He's like, I'm not the biggest, fastest, because man, I was in the film room. I studied the playbooks. He goes, I knew my job inside and out, and I knew everybody else's job in the backfield.
I mean, that has to be a big part of it. You have to know where you're going and what the other people are doing.
We were in Baltimore for the Army-Navy game one year. It's usually in Philly. It was in Baltimore. We went to Camden Yards to look around and have some lunch. And my feet are really bad. And I came out of the bathroom, walked around the corner. Blaine goes, what's wrong with your right foot? Specifically the back part of your right foot. I said, what? He goes, what's wrong with the back part of your right foot? I can tell by the way you're walking, it hurts.
Amazing.
Yeah, I've heard him several times say, like, he would watch tape and he would look and he goes, oh, number 84, he's got a bum knee, or he doesn't look right. He goes, I'm gonna remember that, and I'm gonna hit the shit out of him.
I'm going to tackle him right there.
Yeah.
So
I call him Dr. Blaine. He can diagnose anybody's medical problems.
Unreal.
He was an assassin, man.
So 3HL, now you're you and Blaine and Titans pre-games and all that stuff. What's next for you? I mean, you're still doing music, yeah?
A little bit, not as much as I would like.
Yeah.
I mean,
Cry Like's gone.
No, that's gone. That's gone. I don't have time to do that like the way it would need to be done.
Yeah.
I know some people who do real estate part time, but it's it's moving so fast now. It's so hard to even get.
Oh my Lord!
You know, it's 12 offers on a house and that kind of thing. It's hard to get people financing.
Yeah,
I wouldn't do it justice if I tried to do it part time. And you're talking about people's life and their family, and I take it too seriously to do it like that.
But music's still there.
Oh my gosh, I would.
It's got to be part of your life for the rest of your life.
I had somebody tell me once, you either like it or you are it.
Yeah.
You know, like some people really like music. You know, I've played with a lot of people over the years, and I go to their house. I'm like, you still have that green guitar? They're like, I think it's in my closet. You know, I have a room full of guitars. My daughter and I go and we play, and she plays and sings. She just got accepted into Belmont. So
awesome.
we're trying to get her accepted into the financial aid office at Belmont. but she and I will play sometimes, or I'll go back and play, or I'll hear her playing, or she'll say, Dad, come help me finish this, or what would you play here? So I don't do as much as I would like. No. I would still like to really go and, Blaine and I always joke, like he turned pro in football, and I was a pro in music, but not I didn't make it to the major league level. I was probably AA at my best.
Yeah.
And he's like, man, that's still pretty good for all the people who do it. But I got, albums on iTunes, and I played in Europe.
There's not a lot of people that can say that.
Sure.
There's plenty of people out there that never accomplished that.
And I'm not afraid to fail. Like, failing never scared me. And when you're in music, some people, I don't like that song. Okay.
It's 80% hearing that these days,
I always told people, look, I can take my no.
Yeah.
Just give me my no. If it's a no, you probably have to tell people no.
A lot of no's.
He tells me no all the time.
And my thing would be
but
like,
I have to.
Look, man, I'm a big boy. Just give me my no.
Yeah.
If it's a yes, awesome. But if it's and I got way too many no's. But if it was a no, I can take the no. I just have to know that I tried.
Yeah.
Well,
I'd love to sit down with you anytime.
Oh, dude. Let's go. Have bass, we'll travel.
I wish I had a publisher somewhere that could set something up for us.
Man.
Oh, gosh.
There's only a guy here.
Bring us a bass. I think I saw one in a room over there. Get you a 6-string. Let's make one happen here.
What's next for you? What do you got coming up?
At my age in radio, the next thing is they call me like 2 hours before a show and tell me to bring my key card.
Yeah.
So, that's probably the next thing. It's just the sweet release of radio death.
Yeah.
But I'm being realistic.
I'm
the oldest person on the zone,
Yeah.
So, and if they do that, I'm still going to feel like the luckiest person that I even got to do it.
Look at that. Look at
so positive.
Look how nice he is.
Well,
I love it.
But it's funny when you're young. You just think, I'm here, I'm doing the work, I'm the best, nobody. And then when you get to be a certain age, you think, boy, they could fire me tomorrow and replace me with somebody half my age. I'm like, replace me with somebody half my age old.
I feel that too.
And so here's kind of some words that I've lived by, and both of you guys will understand this. I have a friend who has been in a touring band for a long time. And we were talking about what's that like, and he goes, it's great. It can be really boring, and it can be really great, and it's hurry up and wait. And he said, you've played, because I've probably played 1,000 gigs in my life. He said, how many gigs have you played? I said 1,000. He goes, then you did it. You just didn't ride on a bus and open up for, whoever. He said, you did it on your level, so you know exactly how it works. He said, here's what I know. A tour is a carnival ride. Carnival rides have a stop, and they have a start and a stop, right? And he said, when you get on, maybe the guy will give you a couple more spins, right?
Yeah.
Maybe the guy's ready to go on his lunch break, and you don't get a very long ride. He said, we all know, everybody who gets on the bus and puts your stuff in the trailer knows, eventually the carnival ride ends.
It's true.
He said that's always in the very back of your mind. Well, when you're young, you don't think about that. It's never going to end, right? You're never going to be old or have bags under your eyes.
Right.
Hemorrhoids or any other terrible thing, right? Not that anybody around here would have that. But when you're young, I have a long memory, by the way. When you're young, nothing's ever going to end, and everything's always going to be great, and you're doing the work, and you're always going to do the best work, and you're going to be on the top of the charts, but then when you get to be a certain age, you're like, holy crap, my competitors all just got cleaned out and replaced by people half their age, or our whole station got blown up, and a couple people got parted company with. So I just know that it's not a forever thing. Yeah. It's not. We don't work in a forever business.
No, we do not.
Radio's like your station. It's still the entertainment business, to a degree, and it happens. People clean house. Companies by companies, it's a thing,
Sure.
And there's 50 people that move here every day trying to take my job.
Oh gosh, I think that's
at least
on the low end.
I'm going low on it.
Tell yourself, it's only like 50 people.
It's only 5 people a day,
not 283 people a day.
Yeah,
who are the best in their town who come here.
Okay, let's go. What's your favorite restaurant in town? Where do you like to go eat?
Unfortunately, I have an 8-year-old son now, so I only eat at places that have chicken strips. You can tell me some great places to go.
I have friends that's all they eat too, and they're grown men. So
yeah.
So my wife and he had karate night out where he takes karate, and they're like, for 2.5 hours, and we'll watch him and feed him pizza for $30, and you can go do something. So we're like, take him. Does he need his karate suit on? They're like, no, they're not going to kick each other for 2. Well, some of them will. So we went to what used to be the Boathouse in Franklin.
Oh yeah, it's the taps.
It was so good.
Yeah.
And it's not fancy, but it was such a neat place, great atmosphere. Our daughter actually mixes sound at Mockingbird Theater, so we walked down and took her food, and in the most Nashville Franklin moment everywhere, I said, "Hey, isn't that where Toby Mac lives?" And as I said that, it's 8:00 at night. He came out to his mailbox and he goes, "What's going on, guys?"
Like the house beside the factory,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
And so we walked our food
funny.
down there, and he's like, "Have a good evening." so we just had to laugh,
Yeah.
only here. I'm like, doesn't he live around here somewhere?
Exactly.
He's
There he is.
standing at his mailbox, and he said, "Hey, what's going on?"
That's funny.
But anyway, so we ate there, but
Yeah.
mostly I only eat where there are chicken strips.
Yeah.
So ask me, anybody's chicken strips, I can rate them through. What do you want to know about chicken? Ask me anything about chicken strip.
Yeah, man.
gosh.
Well, I mean, we appreciate you coming in and talking to us.
This is it? Come on. We're just getting
Oh,
started.
stop it.
I don't know. I don't know what else you want to talk about. What do you got over there, Colt? You got some?
Well, I have a random question. I've always wondered this, like when you're not on the air.
Do you really talk like that?
But no, like
Okay.
What do you guys do when you're not on the air? Like
You
you're
mean like in
when you're-
commercial
when you're
breaks?
in the building, like before and after your show?
Oh, that's a funny question. I had somebody who told me, "Hey, man, let's go eat lunch before. Can you eat lunch before your show?" I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, my body needs sustenance whether or not I'm broadcasting." And he's like, "Well, I mean, I didn't know if you were getting in the zone or anything." I'm like, I said, "I mean,
No
I
pun
work at the
intended.
zone, but I don't need to get into it." I said, "No, man, it's not like that." I mean, I think that blows people's mind, and they think that you have to be in this, and there are some people who have to be in some mental space to go do a show or before anything that revolves around performance of any kind. You're going to have to excuse our lead singer, Fred. He has to go and meditate and, say his chants, and then he has to take 60 deep breaths and go through all the scales.
Yeah.
There are people like that.
Yeah.
You've been around those
Yeah.
people. And we're laughing and joking, and I hear somebody in my ear, Jones will be like, "Hey, you're on." And so I'm like, anyway, I said, it wrecked him. I damn near killed him. Hey, Mickey, Blaine and Mickey. It just turns on and off.
Yeah.
You get to the point where you can be having some crazy conversation, and then the light comes on, and you just immediately go into whatever you have to do.
Yeah.
So, and our thing is this. We're not trying to be like the hot take guys, or we're not trying to say things that just inflame you. You're just incensed because you hate us and our stupidity or whatever. We're just two dads talking about sports. We talked about that a lot. What do we want this to sound like when we were together? And Blaine was like, "I don't know, man. Let's just give people a place to go. Like if they got a problem and they're thinking about paying bills, or they got a kid in the hospital, that for however long they listen, if it's 5 minutes or 2 hours." I said, I agree with you 100%. We just take them to a different headspace.
Well, that's what's endearing about it. I mean, people are smart for the most part. A person is smart. People sometimes are dumb, but they can tell when it's genuine or not. And I think that's what people gravitate to with your show is it's two guys talking about sports, which is what, if us three went to a lunch or a dinner or watched a Titan game together, that's exactly what we would be doing.
Sure.
And that's why it's so gravitational.
Well,
That's right.
Yeah.
I am also always willing to be the butt of the joke. Like if I'm the butt of the joke, I will tell you the story that ends with me being the butt of the joke.
Yeah.
I mean, I've done that today. I'll always do that. I'm not too cool to be. If I'm the one who failed, I will take the L.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think there are people in the broadcast business who don't ever want to be that person. They're not willing to be the butt of the joke. They're not. And Blaine will tell you if he messed something up in a game, or if he got too hyped up in the hotel room and then Whitney couldn't run because he was all physically spent. Both of us will do that. And so everybody thinks, I messed up at work today. These guys they tell me they messed up at work.
Exactly.
So we just, again, our whole thing is, and I told Blaine, I said, look, the things that we talk about, I said, I worked in real estate for a long time. We had a coffee pot and a water bottle, and people would go stand between the coffee pot and the giant water bottle, and whatever they were talking about, I said, that's what we should be talking about.
Yeah.
The thing that you run to work on Monday morning and everybody goes to the coffee pot and you go, could you believe that this happened yesterday with the Titans?
Yeah.
That's what they care about.
Yep.
And so we both agreed, we're not talk European soccer. I know there are people who love it, but the majority of our listeners don't. We would lose them. So we play the hits.
Yep.
You know, we're doing the water cooler topics is what we're trying to do.
Yeah. That's great. That's a great way to describe it.
So, like, part of your show and every show segment that you bring callers onto the show, do you have any, like, certain callers or maybe a story of a caller that you recall that it was like, wow, this is wild, or this person, they're always calling in and they're just doing some crazy stuff?
When we were on, Brent and me first started in part-time, we were on in the middle of the night. Mm-hmm. You cannot imagine the calls you would get around midnight. People would be multi-beers into their evening. And all radio station, you guys ever see Galaxy Quest?
Yeah, it's one of my favorite movies of all time.
I could watch Galaxy Quest every day. You remember the Omega 13?
Yes.
I call it the Omega 13. We have a button that we can push that essentially makes 7 seconds go away. So we had to use it today. A guy was like, I don't know what the Titans effing do. Oh, sorry. So we hit the button and I hung up on him. Yeah. And then so people, I don't even know if they knew that he had been on at that point. It goes over the internet part of the broadcast, which there's no FCC internet, but there is for FM broadcast signals. So you have to Omega 13.
I cannot believe you just brought up the Never Give Up, Never Surrender.
Oh my gosh, it's the best movie ever.
I watched it at least 1,000 times on the bus.
Okay, it's the most fantastic movie.
If those of you who don't know, it's Tim Allen, Sigourney Weaver, Tony Sigourney Weaver. Yeah. I have a big tongue today. I'm sorry.
Tony Shalhoub is in
Tony Shalhoub, who was Monk. Sam Rockwell.
Yep.
Guy. That was his name.
Yes.
Guy.
Wait a second. Doesn't the crewman always die in the scene? Like maybe you're the plucky comic relief.
They're minors. No. Oh, and good Lord, Alan Rickman, God rest his soul,
who was fantastic. He
was amazing.
By hammer, you will be avenged. It is such a great movie.
We're fangirls.
But we got all these crazy people who are called drunk at night.
Yes.
So mostly now it's
or after the Titans game. Yeah.
The post.
I can't
Blaine
imagine
and me aren't
the
on
anger.
post game anymore. They revamped all that and took us off that. Post game after a Titans loss, people would be despondent. And at one point, the late great Mark Howard, we were all together, Dyson and Blaine and Mark Howard and me. That was the pre and the post game. And Mark would stop those people in their tracks. Mark would have his gun. He would come in like John Wayne.
He was that guy.
Taking them out.
Oh, yeah.
He would not suffer fools lightly. So people kind of started to tread a little more lightly with the post-game calls, but just too numerous to mention. But the funniest thing that ever happened on radio, we were on at night. Our producer was a guy named Andrew Braverman. Braves Braverman. And so we were in there, and this has been it's 2009 probably, so 14 years ago. Oh, my Lord. And so we're on the air. It's the middle of the night. It's 10 o'clock or whatever. And there was some news story about Jenna Jameson, who was an adult film actress, having a baby. And so we're like, boy, hope that kid doesn't have the internet when he grows up. There's going to be some pictures. There's going to be some things that he sees, like where he came from is readily available for all to see. And so Braverman, who was really, really young, and he's living in Chicago and just killing it today, he goes, I mean, think about a life like that. I mean, your mom is Jenna Jameson, or let's say your dad is Ron Jeremy. I mean, which one of those things would be harder to swallow?
Oh, no, he didn't.
So somewhere this is taped, and you hear nothing for like what seemed like an eternity, but it was probably about 4 seconds. You hear nothing, and then you hear someone gasp for air, which was me, because there was no online. And then you hear whoomp. Here's what happened. I laughed so hard that I leaned back and my chair completely flipped over. So Brent at this point is laughing so hard that he crawls under the desk. So we did the math for over 20-something seconds. It was like 23 seconds. No one said a word.
Oh, my Lord.
And all you can hear is a chair rolling around like, and you can hear Brent trying to say words with his mouth, and he can't. And Braverman is just mortified because he's young. It's his first real radio job. Yeah. he doesn't know what to say, and then he starts to laugh too because we got such a reprimand for that. And it's like, look, man, I don't care what happens. You can't just let nobody drive the boat for 25 seconds. But it was the most real, hilarious, crazy thing that has ever happened, ever. I've never had anything else like that happen.
I love it.
That's amazing.
Amazing story.
Which should
That's
be
a
harder
good
to swallow.
question. I like that one. Yeah. You got any more of those?
Yeah.
What else you got?
He typed his questions.
He sure did.
It's the only way I can remember
scribbles.
stuff. I have a feeble brain.
Yeah, we do. If there's a picture of this, like here's on Instagram, we have this. I want pictures of both of the question lists.
Let me just
Mine's
read you
professional.
mine.
His is
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know what this says. Scorpions, bass player.
Okay. You got
Lon
that one.
Stambian, Dillard's farmer,
Yes.
Arkansas State, useless knowledge. I can't even read my handwriting on it. I don't know. Oh, yeah. Def Leppard and the Crew.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we covered all my stuff.
All highlights. Yeah.
Go ahead, Colt.
So
I feel like we had a conversation. Now it's like, Colt, do you have anything?
this is how it always goes.
No, Tall Brewski, do you have anything?
Brewski
Let's
is
crack
back.
open the Brewski for the second half of the podcast.
So your story,
That's got to be a segment.
and Mickey doesn't even drink. This is what's the most impressive thing.
Crack open the Brewski with Cole Brewski. AKA Tall.
My fat ears are sweating from Go ahead, buddy.
I promise
Today's
nobody's drinking
headlines.
yet.
Crack open the Brewski.
So your story onto the zone kind of reminded me of Coach Dave McGinnis, because I swear, if I remember this right, like he was just one of those guys who came on randomly. I don't even think he was still with the Titans, and I think I heard like one of his very first interviews with whoever's show it was, probably the 3HL at whatever time it was. And he's just so charismatic and energetic when he's talking about whatever, and he's just got that mind where he knows everything. He sees it all. He's got a name for it. He can relate it to a story from last year or 30 years ago.
Growing up in Texas. Yeah.
Grew up in Texas. So, and eventually he worked his way on to like, he's on there like all the time. And like, so it was like, I would just love to know your thoughts on him and all that, just because I think he's very fascinating.
Sometimes you meet people and you realize, holy crap, it's all an act. Yeah. It's all an act. He's nothing like that. This guy's not nice, or he's not really like that, or this is all pretend. He is 1,000% like that. So one day he and Mike were doing the game, and they have a promo that runs on the zone. And, Mike's like, wow, what a hit by, whoever it was, Big Jeff. and McGinnis goes, that was forward over Rooster, Mike. And he goes, and so Mike completely breaks character. He's like, forward over Rooster? What's that? And so he goes, Mike, you ever been in the country and seen a Ford roaring down a gravel road and hit a rooster? He goes, I don't think I have. He goes, that's forward over Rooster. So I saw Coach Mack after the game, and I said, my friend hit a chicken with a Monte Carlo. I know exactly what you're talking about. He just said there were feathers everywhere, like a bomb went off. He said, I never even found one leg of that thing. He said, so I'm like, when he said forward over Rooster in the game, I'm like, oh, 100% that's a gravel road, a Ford truck hitting a rooster. Yeah. And so everybody's around me. He's like, there's no way that's what that means. So then he explains, like, you ever been roaring down a gravel road, seen a Ford truck hit a rooster? Like, I don't think I have.
It's back to your friend that would say things that were brilliant that you could understand.
Yes.
But it was said in a different way.
Yes. So forward over Rooster. And one day we were talking about our buddy Buck Rising, and Buck is really young. He's on before us. And Coach Matt goes, Buck doesn't know if he's pumped or stuffed. So he's just really funny. But he says that in everyday life.
He's got all those quips. I mean, just nonstop.
Which is why he's on there.
Yeah.
So here's a guy who knows everything about football, and it's like a guy's guy, and it's just the funniest person. It has the funniest way of saying stuff.
But he's not even trying to be funny. It's just his personality.
It's just how he is.
Yeah.
Yes. He's just like that. Coach McGinnis is amazing to work with. So everybody loves Coach Mack.
Awesome. So another question is, you're obviously heavy in this sports world. Do you have like a favorite time of year? Like, is it Super Bowl season, March Madness?
No, it's right now,
season?
actually, because now is everything season.
Yeah.
The end of October is everything season.
Yeah.
It's NASCAR championship. It's the beginning of all basketball. Baseball is at its zenith. Football is right in the middle of the action. Like, it's there's the end of October every year is everything season.
I agree with that.
And it's not 8,000 degrees outside, and you can ride around with your windows down because it's our 2-week fall that we have after all the false falls that came before it.
Yeah.
So 100%, it's everything season. I'm an everything season guy, and it'll be here before you know it.
Yeah. You weren't outside yesterday.
Oh God, we
Were
were.
you?
You were,
Yeah.
We were golfing. It was scorching.
Boy, what hell on earth playing golf out there. The rest
Man,
of us
it
were
was-
slaving away over
it was
a hot
rough.
microphone.
It was
I don't know how you
really
do it.
rough.
Yeah.
It was so rough.
So terrible.
So does that make it pretty challenging during the summer to come up with content for your shows, or is there always just enough? I mean, I guess with like the off season that keeps y'all kind of
okay.
somewhat
There's
busy.
the
but-
biblical story about manna from heaven, where manna just came from heaven and people had food to eat.
Yeah.
We had a summer a couple of years ago where I swear every day something crazy would happen and we would have the whole show.
Wow.
Most of the time, though, this is a true story. This was probably 94, 95. I was at the Sunbelt basketball tournament, and it was a weird day. I was getting ready to cover the Sunbelt basketball tournament. It was a weird way. It was like before all the tournament started, there was nothing going on. It was one of those weird days where there was nothing going on. And Sports Center started, and it showed a guy carrying a tray of meat. And it wasn't John Butchergross, but it was somebody like that. And he goes, "We've got nothing. Literally nothing." That was the intro to Sports Center. And it like showed a guy like walking down an escalator and then the tray of meat guy again.
It's like COVID when they would show, I don't know, grandma bowling.
Yeah.
You know?
We've got nothing. So in the summer, Brent Doherty and I used to refer to those shows as a tray of meat.
Yeah.
We've got nothing. So everybody I go everywhere. My grandson wants to do what you do. He knows everything about sports. I told him that Mickey Ryan, you'd be just like him. Why don't y'all hire him? He'd come down there, he can work with you. And I was like, I'll tell you what, he may know everything about sports. Let me ask you something. Shove that sucker into my seat on July 17th and see what he comes up with to talk about for 2 hours.
Yeah.
If you can fill 2 hours with nothing, or 3 or 4, because I've
Yeah.
been on all those amounts of time, he can have my job. That's our job.
Yeah.
Today was easy. Everybody's still happy that the Titans and the Vols won.
Yeah.
Go on the air where you cannot talk about Major League Baseball because it doesn't move the needle here because we don't have a team. You could say Braves did good last night. Yep, and then that's the end of it.
Yeah.
Go on the air in Nashville, in a football crazy town, on July 17th and hold your audience for the entire length of your show.
That's
That's my job. That's my job. My job today was easy. My job is in July to make you stay tuned.
And people don't understand how hard that is. I mean, we come in here and we've just started out doing this, but you know, you're great because you're throwing out stuff.
Yeah.
But if you're don't have somebody that's as involved as you are, there's only so many questions we can ask. There's only so much content we can create.
I feel like I totally hijacked this thing.
No, you have done wonderfully. This is pretty much what we do. We
let the guests hijack the show.
Well, you even kind of said today at the end of your show, like nothing happens during our show. It like always happens right after.
Oh, the NFL deadline is 3 p.m. for every transaction every day, and every announcement, their deadline is 3 p.m. and no one releases squat until 3 p.m.
So you're just like leftovers
so
every day.
Blaine and me are like, so as we walk to our cars, the Titans are going to make all their transaction announcements. Open your phone, Blaine. So we'll just, hopefully 3HL will know. So we're still looking to say, okay. In the meantime, in between time, peace. So one day they released the transactions early. I'm like, the Titans just signed a 4th string guard. Wow!
I broke the news, baby.
It doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter what his name is.
I wish y'all could see what just transpired in this room. It was
So
amazing.
they never. So if we're on the air and it'll be like, hey guys, our producer, it was Lucas, and now it's Joseph. Hey guys, I don't know if you just noticed, but Larry Bird drove off a cliff. We're like, what? Nothing ever happened. Larry Bird didn't drive off a cliff. But when we use examples of like, we don't leave the air early. Something, you never know. Larry Bird could drive off a cliff. Yeah. Your mind always just goes to the craziest thing you can think of. The Titans could sign a 4th string guard.
Yeah.
So nothing ever happens during our show.
Yeah.
We had one magical week it was probably like 10 months ago or something. Everything happened during our show for a whole week.
Oh. Nice.
It was like when you get a large pizza and no one else wants any, and you just eat it so you can't eat anymore. And it was like, this is so good.
It's so good.
Like your first slice of pizza, think that's like heaven.
It really is.
But then when you start to get full, you're like, it's kind of colder. The cheese has started to congeal. You can see all the grease on the top.
It's pancakes.
It's a tougher slog, man.
Yeah.
And we had so much news. It was like the back end of the large pizza by yourself.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, we got more here. We're sweating.
Yeah. Ron Jeremy. You can't.
And what would be harder to swallow?
Can't eat anymore.
Man.
I went back to it.
Tall Brewski.
Here we go.
Hemorrhoids.
Go ahead, Tall Brewski.
So
We're basically doing our show here. This is mine and Blaine's show, but with football.
I'm never sharing anything else with you again.
So
You
related
will.
to Titans
I'll get it out of
news,
you.
they announced the new Titans Stadium, and I wanted to know your perspective on it. I've seen mixed reviews of, a lot of the locals hate it because they think they're going to be paying for it, but then a lot of people are like, "Oh, this is going to be big and fascinating. It's going to help Nashville grow. We're going to have Super Bowls, Final Fours, yada yada yada." What's your take on that?
How hard was it for you to get here today?
Hard to quite hard.
Nashville over the past few years has boomed, and the traffic has gotten insane. That's what we're talking about. Usually, if I leave between 3 and 3:01, I can get here within 20 minutes. Today it took quite a while. It was awful.
So everything about have somebody show you a picture of what Nashville looked like when you and I moved here, or when you moved here, 99. You said,
yeah.
and then literally show them a picture now and say, and the roads are all still the same.
Exactly.
No
the
one
same.
would believe you.
Yeah.
No one would believe you.
It used to be you didn't go to 440 between 4:30 and 6.
Oh heck no! Now you don't go anywhere.
Now you don't go anywhere.
And so we're going to have to figure out traffic for everything, and that doesn't have anything to do with the stadium, but they're going to have to figure out traffic for everything for the city, because when you build that, and there's a political side to it and there's a sports side. Well, I work on the sports side, and I don't live in Davidson County, so it's technically not my nickel, and it's a never-ending flow of content that I could just, they're like, hey guys, the NCAA basketball championship is there. We're going to, you're going to do your show over there today. Mm-hmm. Awesome. SEC championship football game is going to be there today. Okay, I guess we'll go cover it.
Yeah.
For us, it's a gold mine of content. For somebody in Davidson County who doesn't want it, I totally understand where they're coming from. For a sports fan who really wants it, I totally understand where you're coming from. So I just have to look at it from my job standpoint. It is a never-ending source of content, which our whole job is content.
Yeah.
It's connect with the audience with content. And so it gives us a chance to connect with an audience who's going to love the events that go in there and to have content. But I hope that the city today, before I came over here, I was like, man, I hadn't had any caffeine, so I went to the McDonald's over there on Broadway to get a Coke.
Yep.
I couldn't get in and I couldn't get out because there was so much construction.
Oh yeah, that was a terrible idea.
There's I know, but I needed some caffeine, so I go over there and I thought, this is just the 80th thing. This is the 45th crane in the air. So it's all going to keep going, and it's going to keep blowing up. So then when you get this building, you're going to get a Super Bowl, because that's the deal. If you build it, they will come. The NFL gives you a Super Bowl. They put one in Minnesota. I was there. The high one day was -3.
Oh, Lord.
No, thanks.
That was for a Super Bowl week. They should have never done it, but they built the stadium. They got the Super Bowl. Surely they'll never get another one. And I love the good people of Minnesota. It's an awesome place. But we couldn't even go to anything.
Right. Wasn't it like frozen over, like a lot of ice?
Hell was frozen over. The high was -3 one day. And so the NFL keeps, if you build a stadium, then you get a Super Bowl. We're going to get everything here. Everybody wants to be here.
Yeah.
When the NHL had its draft here, a lot of people were like league executives. We're not on camera.
The NHL or the NFL?
The NHL, when they had the draft here.
Yeah.
Then when the Predators made the finals, the Stanley Cup final, every league executive and TV executive, and we're not on camera, so but I'm used to radio, and I'll be like, you can't see this, but I'm sitting up on the edge of my chair.
He
So
is.
it's drama.
He's definitely
here.
on the edge.
Everybody, I talked to people from NASCAR, and they're like, we immediately decided we had to open that track back up in Gladeville and come back. Mm-hmm. So they had their awards banquet. They did burnouts on Broadway within a few months of that. Mm-hmm. And now they're trying to reopen the historic Fairgrounds Speedway for NASCAR, which would be fantastic. Major League Soccer, immediately here after that. Everybody wanted to be here because they saw the power of this city. And it's a great sports city, but it's also a great party city. So if you're like, shoot, I mean, we love the sports aspect of it, but all these other people who won't even buy a ticket will just come downtown and party with us.
Yeah, like what the Preds did on their Stanley Cup run. Like not only on the inside what they were doing, like all the entertainment stuff, but in all the outside stuff. And then all of a sudden you start seeing all these other teams who were in the playoffs
who had never done something
that,
like that.
You know?
Think of how pitiful and pathetic every other draft has looked since the draft has come
That was
here.
amazing.
And then the NFL draft, that was wild.
Well, and that's the one. Yes, I wasn't specific. Once the NFL draft came here, it broke.
Changed it.
It broke everything. At that point, I'm sure Amy Adams Strunk and the powers that be with the Titans are like, we need the next level stadium because we could do anything here. Somebody even pointed this out. Broadway is a natural amphitheater.
Yep.
It goes down towards the end where you put the stage. It's a natural amphitheater. And Nashville itself, because of the interstate and the river, is essentially on an island of either asphalt or water, and you can cram all the people down there.
And there's all the rooftop bars.
Yes.
Yep.
And so we're going to get everything here.
Yep.
Everything. It's all, what they say in Almost Famous, it's all happening.
It is.
Yeah.
You like that one?
I really did like that one.
Okay. You haven't watched it 1,000 times.
I have not. What? It's no Galaxy Quest.
Man, that's true.
Really not Spinal Tap. It's not. What else you got, Colt?
Well, like me,
you've done well with these questions.
Mickey's a big Whataburger fan. Like, and I know
I
you've
might as well
talked
be a
about
Texan as much as I love Whataburger. They send me gifts
is it
sometimes.
really
Do they?
that good?
Yes. Here's the thing about Whataburger.
And can we say it if they're not our sponsor? I don't know.
Oh, no free
Well, they
shout
get one free shout out.
Do they?
But this is it.
Okay.
Otherwise, we expect a check.
Sometimes people will
Or
go
gift cards.
eat at a restaurant of the name that we won't say again, and they'll go, I went there, and it was just a hamburger. It's not that big a deal. It sucks. You're stupid. Why are you always tweeting about it? Because people want to let you know on the internet anything they don't like that you've endorsed. And so,
In and out, man.
oh, In-N-Out's way better. Here's the thing about Whataburger. It's not a gourmet hamburger, dingbat. It's not meant to change your life. They're always consistent, though. And the burger is bigger than a normal fast food burger.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
bigger. And like the French fries are always good. It's not like some restaurants have terrible French fries. And usually the tomatoes and things they put on there are always fresh. At Thanksgiving, they have a pumpkin pie. They make a Dr. Pepper milkshake. Everything is solid there all the time.
Consistency.
It's consistent
Consistency.
all the time. That's kind of what sets it apart. So, and I like the taste of it. And they have spicy ketchup, which I love spicy stuff, and it hates me, but I still eat it. And it's so Southern in its, we're going to put milkshake and ice cream together and call it a Dr. Pepper milkshake. Dr.
Hell yeah.
That's such a Southern thing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So they're catering to us.
Well,
makes
Dr.
sense.
Pepper is like so big in Texas. I mean, I can't tell you how much Dr. Pepper
you had
I
in your
drank
bottle.
as a kid.
In your bottle.
Yeah, in the
Yeah.
milk. Dr. Pepper milk.
No, I didn't.
No, I just made that up.
No. I
Well,
have no idea what you're
Dr.
talking about.
Pepper and frozen milk at Whataburger is pretty
Yeah.
good. No, I love it. I wound up eating it, oddly enough, at a Cryolite convention. We were driving back. We used to have this big convention down there just for Cryolite people because there were, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds. And we were driving back, and I said, these Whataburger, because they're all down in coastal Florida. And I'm like, let's get a hamburger. We pass all these Whataburger places. Let's go there. So we went in, and it was in the fall. And I said, does that pie have pumpkin in it? Like the lava hot pie where you bite the top off and it literally sears the flesh, the inside of your mouth.
Yeah.
It's before they started to bake them. Yeah. And she's like, that darling, yep, that's what it is. And I was like,
Pumpkin.
give me one of those and a number one combo. And I never looked back.
Wow.
The
I've
pumpkin
never had
pie,
the pumpkin.
it'll change your life.
Well, it was. When did we get it here finally?
This year.
Everywhere but here.
Well, there's
one
like
in
two now.
Murfreesboro,
There's one in
Hermitage.
Hermitage,
Yeah.
which is right by my doctor's office. Every time I go there, I'm like totally scooping in a Whataburger.
But
Yeah.
just go after it so when he tests your cholesterol.
Always after. Yeah.
But I don't know, man. They're just rock solid, and it's a real Southern based thing, and it's like Southern based menu items. I'm totally down with it. I'm all about me some Whataburger.
I know, like when you're traveling and doing satellite whatever interviews, whether it's like Hoover, Alabama, or wherever you guys are at.
How did you just pull out Hoover, Alabama?
Well, that's where they do.
That's
the Big
where they used to
12
do SEC media
or SEC
days.
media days. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me back up.
In the Hoover Mall. Yeah.
But like you'd always call into the station, and I know someone would be always like, "So, Mickey, did you make your Whataburger stop?" And you're like, "Yeah,
Yes,
it was this
on the way
this,
down
that,
and
that."
all the way back. Of course, yeah. It's funny. At one point, if you searched on Twitter for Whataburger, the first thing that came up was Whataburger. The second thing was the guy who was like the CEO of Whataburger, and the third thing was me. So they sent me like a Snuggie, a huge Whataburger. They sent me a cooler it's an igloo, but it's orange, and the top of it looks like the top of a Whataburger. It has the stripes.
Yeah.
They sent me a Yeti cup, Whataburger cup.
Yeah.
So they sent
the
me.
next time you come in, you have to be.
I'll swag you guys out. I'll
Yeah.
bring you my fanny pack they sent me.
Oh, he loves fanny packs.
It's
Where is
also
it?
a cooler.
Talk to me, Goose. It's a cross shoulder bag.
Okay, that's a Murph's if
he
it's across
fancies
the
it up.
shoulder.
Look at this thing right here, Daddy.
All right, the next time I
Look at
see
that.
you, I will bring you my Whataburger cooler fanny pack that they sent to me.
Wonderful.
It's an igloo fanny pack with the Whataburger logo on
I'm
it.
waiting with bated breath.
Oh, you keep baiting that breath. Some would say in a masterful way that you'll
Worms.
bait your breath.
Yes. Oh, we've completely lost it now.
Yeah. Well, I'm out of questions, but that always leads me to: do you feel like spinning the wheel of shame?
I think you should.
The wheel
spin
of
it.
shame?
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
what happens?
We
You'll-
got to spin
you'll
it and find out.
Okay.
Go for it.
He's going to spin. You can't see him right now, but Mickey's walking over. He spun the wheel.
Oh, it's a
of
pretty
shame.
good spin. Wasn't
That's a
Price
good-
is Right style,
that's a
but it was pretty
one.
good.
Please be Chubby Bunny.
I took it off.
Why'd you take the Chubby Bunny off?
This is a whole segment while it just spins.
Yeah. And we're still spinning.
Truth or drink?
Truth or drink.
You get the one guy who doesn't drink for truth
It's
or drink.
I told him not to put alcohol on here, but he doesn't listen to me.
Wheel of shame. How did this segment get added here?
Well,
I
Colt,
was up late one night and thought about it.
Colt fought real hard for this.
So just pick your card.
I'll have to steal
Don't
this
look
from
at it.
Blaine and Mickey. We'll have wheel of. Okay.
All right, give me the card here. Okay, it says, what's the most bonkers shit you've ever seen in a public restroom, figuratively or literally?
Oh my gosh.
Whataburgers included.
I was at a concert years ago. Walked past a ladies' line of 100 people and walked straight into the men's room. And I was peeing at the urinal. And all of a sudden, this woman comes in and goes, "Yo, ain't got nothing I ain't never seen." Pulled down her pants and sat in the urinal next to me and peed.
Oh, my goodness.
And I said, "You ain't got nothing I've never seen."
That's impressive.
She sat in the urinal and peed.
You know what?
Next
Good
to
on
was
her.
this at? Where was
Good
this
on
at?
her. Scorpions
Like
concert?
City State?
Probably at the Roundhouse, the Mid-South Coliseum in Memphis, which is
oh, that
the
sounds
same as
very
the thing
Memphis.
that's downtown here.
Municipal.
municipal, yeah.
I can't talk to that. I cannot
It's
talk.
the same. Like one guy. It's like every mall built in the 70s,
Exactly.
and Southern America. There was like Mike Brady's, architectural design. It was always the same thing. There was one blueprint for mall. There was one blueprint for municipal auditorium. They look like a spaceship. Like one day they'll leave Earth with people inside them and go back to where they came from.
Exactly.
I think it was at the Roundhouse, the Mid-South Coliseum, and it probably was at who knows, Poison or Striper or Warrant.
I'm sure it's not the worst thing she's ever put her butt on. Wow. Okay. Well, man, thank you so
And
much.
let's end on that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here today, sharing your
thank y'all
time
for
with us,
having
sharing
me.
your talent, and God bless you. And tell Blaine we said hi. And
I'll do it.
Please come back sometime and give us an update on your whereabouts and what you've been doing. And
Well, who knows where my whereabouts will change. But I promise you, even if I'm on the tour bus with the Scorpions, I'll just zoom in and do it or something.
perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Maybe we'll just come to you.
Yeah.
We'll just do a remote pod.
We'll be outside of Munich somewhere,
Yeah.
In Gonky Pond.
Yes, you guys can come and join us. By the way, we can get into the whole thing about people singing in phonetic English.
Yeah.
Like bands, they speak German.
Yeah.
They're just forming words, singing in phonetic
amazing.
English and
Yeah.
making things rhyme. Do a deep dive on Scorpions lyrics sometime.
Yeah.
And you'll
Okay.
think, what in the world were these guys thinking?
It's true. Throw out your socials. What do you
Yeah.
got?
How can people find you?
Everything is at Mickey Ryan 1045. So if the zone fires me, I'll have to immediately change those.
Yeah.
Twitter and Instagram at Mickey Ryan 1045.
Yeah. Y'all tune in.
And at Blaine and Mickey.
Yes. At Blaine and Mickey.
What time are y'all on?
We're on 1 to 3.
1 to 3 every day on the week.
And then we're on, if the Titans game is at noon, we're 9 to 11. And most Titans games are at noon now. So
perfect. So,
thanks
guys again. And for the listeners out there, please subscribe, like, follow. We're available on all streaming platforms.
We sure are.
You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
Yes.
Twangtown. We'll see you later, guys.